Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to have you back in this year's first DAXF webinar for 2025. It's great to see you again. Last year was very, very interesting, and I'm hoping to make this year with our community activities and along with our industry partners even more exciting year for this community activity. Just before we start, I'd just really like to say that the DAXF, we've actually covered a lot of areas and topics in the last 3-4 years. And in 2025, DAX will focus on technical and commercial opportunities and implications in relation to these specific technologies: AI, 5G Advanced, NGN, and NTN. There'll be greater emphasis placed on AI and its ecosystem, and DAXF collaborating closely with our member MNOs and digital players across the AI value chain. Now, here I've actually on the screen I've put on the slide with GSMA's Global AI Initiative for 2025, and this initiative will be around. Three objectives. First, the first one is to actually create an AI growth engine for telcos, focusing on AI monetization and return on investment in growing the telco industry. The second objective is to accelerate AI adoption for all MNOs and, of course, the ecosystems players across the verticals. And third is to promote secure and sustainable, inclusive and responsible AI. And these And these objectives will be supported by these key activities, as you can see on the screen. I'm working with. We have Peter Jarrett joining us. He's the head of GSMA Intelligence. Working with them to produce reports to actually provide information in terms of what you can do in terms of AI monetization, AI strategies, and of course physical roundtables and summits and so forth. Other activities would be in relation to use case libraries in relation to AI successful use cases, and my colleague Faisal will go through that in the later slide. And also promote secure, responsible, sustainable and inclusive adoption of AI through red team challenges and responsible AI roadmap that's actually produced by our GSMA policy team as well. Now, that said, to support GSMA's Global AI Initiative in the APAC region, DAXF will focus on the following points. One, on the formation of AI Nexus Advisory Board, which I call ANAB. And ANAB members will be chosen from players along the AI value chain every quarter. And ANAB will identify 5 to 6 spotlighted AI-related priority topics every quarter and share it with the community and, of course, our GSMA AI Initiative team. Second is that we'll actually focus on AI and customer services, customer relationship management, which will cover strategies, technologies, and case studies related to AI to provide enhanced customer services. Third is on AI network management and optimization and efficiency. Again, strategies and technology commercializations and case studies, looking at what happens in the back office, in the back end, and also on the level of the BSS to see what can be done to further enhance optimization and efficiency. And lastly, we'll be focusing on AI-enabled innovative service for the future, and working on together with the ecosystems on LLMs, AI, Gen AI. And also looking at opportunities like agents as a service and so on. So it's going to be a very, very interesting year this year. So that said, I will be sharing the activity, a plan after this, sometime next month after MWC. So please, be in tune. And I will actually, following this, I will ask Faisal to explain the activities that are planned by our GSMA Foundry team, and that should give you what GSMA is planning to ensure that there is good interconnection between the GSMA strategy, technology, and of course our community around the region. Okay, so Faisal, over to you. You're on mute. We can't hear you, Faisal. Faisal, it looks like your microphone's not working.
Hello, good afternoon.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead. Yeah.
Apologies, not sure what's happening there, but okay. For those of you who aren't familiar, GSMA Foundry is the innovation wing, and we're going to be working closely with DXAF and indeed the wider GSMA to bring projects and pilots into fruition. I'm going to talk very, very quickly just about some of the key motivators and drivers. There's a familiar story within the industry which basically says that growth is continuing to be challenged and the innovation gap is widening. And where we do see innovation across the telco ecosystem, it is siloed, it is fragmented, it is duplicated. So as such, we brought about GSMA Foundry. We've been running for a couple of years now. And as such, we've got 4 key initiatives that we look at. Strategic partners, suffice to say, partnerships are absolutely key to enabling greater impact. Foundry projects, we now have over 70 projects from across the telco ecosystem. These are focusing on the Foundry lenses, what we call 5G, NTN, AI, quantum and private networks are coming online this year. We also have Foundry challenges, which are initiatives to stimulate projects. These could be a mixture of funding opportunities, opportunities to work with operators, and that leads us into a new initiative for MWC, which will be around the labs network. Essentially growing out the lab as a service model and bringing greater collaboration across the ecosystem. Now, in terms of the strategic partners, very, very quickly, Barcelona Supercomputing Center, we've done a project with these guys around low resource languages. AI is addressing the top 50 or 100 languages. What about the other 6,950 languages? And there's also a question mark around the quality that LLMs are offering. European Space Agency, we launched 15 million euros worth of challenges. We've launched a community around NTN, so that's going to continue to be a key focus area. With IBM, we've launched the Gen AI Accelerator Pack, which enables access to tools, experts, and the IBM Watson X platform at no charge. And indeed, with GTI, we've launched a bit more of a focus around networks, 5G advanced and AI. So we've got a wireless network intelligence challenge, and indeed around new calling. Now that leads us into some of our projects. As part of the BSC partnership, we've done some work with Veon on CAS LLM, and over the course of 2024, we've helped develop and accelerate the rollout of a 70 billion parameter LLM, the first in the Kazakh language. We are going to be continuing supporting operators in languages, and we'll be launching a community to this effect in 2025. The AI use cases library, I'll talk to this on the next slide. We also have a number of other projects. Around about 25% of our projects touch on automation or AI in different elements, but you can see a couple of examples there. And indeed, the QR codes point towards the different project pages where you can learn from the insights. The key driver behind all of this is that there's so much going on in AI. There's so many developments that as such, we've built a AI use cases library. This now features around 70 use cases from across the telco sector. These are all commercially deployed and is a real opportunity for not only for you to contribute, but also to learn from in terms of what's going on, what's the latest, what's the greatest in terms of AI use cases in this space. If you do have any questions, you've got aiusecase@gsma.com, or you can reach out to John and myself around some of the initiatives that we're going to be driving in 2024. Cool. John, back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Great. That was very informative. I hope you found this. If you'd like to actually participate in this AI use case, please do let us know, because we are open to many people, many members actually contributing to growing this database. Now, now that said, now let's begin our presentations for this webinar. And the first presentation will be by Peter Jarek, who's the head of GSMA Intelligence, GSMA. And his presentation will be on telco AI in 2025 and what will shape the agenda and what should. And I'm sure it's going to be a very insightful presentation. So Peter, over to you.
Thanks, John. And thank you everyone for joining this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. I know we've got a great group of folks. So again, as John said, my name is Peter Jarek. I head up the GSMA Intelligence team, and just a quick bit about what the GSMA Intelligence team does for some context. We're the research and consulting arm here at the GSMA, and I think a bit of what John called out is that, one of our outputs you'll see from us are reports and research, but really our goal is to look at industry data and put it into context, so that we can all put that data, put those insights to use, wrap insights around that data to make sure that we're all taking advantage of the opportunities in front of us and mitigating any challenges, dealing with the risks. And obviously, AI is one of the biggest opportunities, challenges, and risks that the industry has faced in quite some time. So I just want to spend a few minutes about what we think will be important in 2025, what my team is looking at, and then give you all an opportunity to engage with us on that. So if we can go to the next slide. I think broadly, as I think about what's important and I look at what our team is looking at this year, we can kind of group into two angles, right? There's the technology of AI, and this is the stuff that you see in the news all the time, right? New LLMs, new innovations, what is taking place that's actually driving the evolution of the technology and also bringing new capabilities. But at the same time, there's the business side of AI, right? How are we putting this to use? And I think you saw a bit of this reflected in what John said. You saw a lot of it reflected in what Faisal said in terms of how we look at use cases, driving it out there from a business perspective, but then also the technology, working with new LLMs. I think it's a great framework for thinking about this. And this is the framework that I'm going to use here to talk about what we think will be important across 2025. So we can go to the next slide. So on the business side of things, and we ask ourselves how the telco industry is looking at AI. And I think it's important here just to take a step and think, that is my team's focus, right? In particular, in our research agenda, is looking at what operators are doing, what operators need, how operators are thinking. Lots of research firms out there, given the access that we have to operators around the world, the insights that we gain by working with them, this is really our focus. I think what sets us apart. And so for us, the question is, as we think about those business dynamics, it really is the telco AI side of things. And I think the first part that is really important to remember, and there's a bit of a context, I think we all maybe knew this for a few years ago, it's the fact that AI is now becoming increasingly democratized, right? So when we think about the fact that it's just been several years that really we've seen this new boom in AI, the reality is AI was around for many years before that. Operators, enterprises of all sorts were leveraging AI tools across their networks, across their operations. But what happened? Right? Well, with the launch of Gen AI, we saw AI becoming democratized. More people had access to it. What does that mean? Right? It means more users are using it. You got scale on the user front, which leads to new applications. And then you get these stakeholder pressures that all end up in this cycle. Now that's been going on for several years, again, with the launch of ChatGPT, but we've seen new launches and we see new capabilities, particularly with skilling efforts, that makes it more and more democratized, which means we'll get more scale, more applications, new ways to figure out how to use this, right? We will embed those skills within telcos, which should generate some more of those new use cases. That's what we're looking to see what those look like. Next slide. There's a bit of this called out, and I think John called this out in terms of the idea of making money and how will telcos make money from this. And this is key for us. So we go and we work with operators on a regular basis. Every year we survey the sort of network transformation leads from 100+ operators around the world. We ask different questions every year. The dynamics change obviously over time. But one question that we've asked from the beginning, because we think it's particularly important, what criteria are being used? What's the main strategic goal behind network transformation efforts? You can break this down into two things, right? Making money or saving money, right? Saving money, OpEx, CapEx efficiencies, making money, user experience, new services. And what do we see year after year after year? This focus on making money predominates. Now, makes sense, right? And we understand that's been the goal for AI, but what we've seen from AI in particular is a lot of focus on network operations. How is it going to improve operations? Maybe make some money by decreasing churn, by keeping your customers happy, but not a lot of new services. Now, we've seen a bunch of those bubble up. AI factories, GPU as a service, sell-through. We've seen that bubble up across the end of last year. Expect to see a lot more ideas this year, especially things like MWC. Last slide. Or next slide, rather. So when we go out and we talk to operators, this is part of a benchmark, maturity benchmark that we did last year. We ask them, what's holding you back? Right? What are the biggest issues holding me back around AI? You see the top and the bottom here. The top's not too surprising. Cybersecurity concerns, data privacy. We understand the implications there. Bottom, also maybe not too surprising. Lack of executive mandate and support. We know the C-suites are pushing this, so that should not be a barrier. But when you see unclear ROI, that's a real questionable one, because with any new technology, there's always some question about the ROI out there. So why does that appear at the bottom? Well, maybe it appears at the bottom because the interests are out there anyways. This is going to take place whether or not we have the ROI figured out, or the ROI is already figured out. In our conversations, we hear a bit of both of those. But for us, what we think is important is that we should be looking at ROI holistically. And so if you look at the next slide, the way we look at ROI obviously has that financial component, the way we all think about it, but it needs to be broader than that. John talked about ethics and compliance. Great, that has to be in there, but also people skilling, business transformation, that we're embedding AI across the organization. That is the way we're looking at ROI. We expect to see more and more operators from our conversations look at it in the same way across the course of the year. Now we can go to the next slide, and we'll be starting to talk about the technology side of things. So a bit about agentic AI that was brought up before. We all know this is going to be the year that we see more and more agentic AI. Right? We saw a bit of it last year, right? Even at the beginning of last year, when you saw some of those AI devices, AI pins, that rabbit device, those were really meant to be agentic AI devices. They were going to do something for you. And what I think was really interesting is I heard recently a great analogy about what is agentic AI. Everyone's talking about it, but what does it mean? And I think it was an executive at one of the bigger AI firms. They said, look, you remember robotic process automation? Well, we have some automations that are taking place, but it's really driven by people. This is RPA on steroids, right? That we're driving that spectrum of agency to where it's mostly the agent doing something. But really, it's not that new. It's just AI doing something for you, right? Kind of makes sense, right? But what really makes sense is that, again, when we go out and we talk to operators and we ask them, how are you looking at technologies that are going to make you more efficient? Not actually the monetization side of things, but the making your operations more efficient. What comes out at top? Network and service automation. By far, right? When we ask people to rank technologies, rank 1, 2, 3, number one by more than twice the next option. And as much as we think about CapEx, and CapEx gets mentioned all the time in the news, it's a big part of every time that we look at the industry and we're trying to benchmark how it's growing, how it's spending its money, CapEx gets the news. OpEx, 3-4 times CapEx for many operators. So it's particularly important. I think it's a big part of why we're going to be seeing a lot more agentic AI this next year. Next slide. There's been a big focus, I think, in terms of what we're doing with AI, but a lot of that focus and a lot of the growth of AI has taken place in the cloud, right, with core hyperscalers. Now, we heard a bit at MWC last year, this idea of inferencing at the edge, this idea that maybe telcos have an opportunity to play a bigger part in the AI game by supporting AI inferencing at the edge of their networks. Now, it was an interesting conversation, didn't necessarily grow too much in 2024. I think in part that's because it was a bit short-sighted, right? This idea of inferencing at the edge suggests we know where the edge is. What we expect to see this year being about is a lot more discussion around distributed inferencing, right? This recognition that there's a spectrum here from the cloud all the way out to the device. And AI workloads are going to need to run in some and or all of those, and maybe parts of those AI applications in multiple of them at the same time. Now, what I think will be important this year, and the reason why we're going to see this driven, is a recognition of why distributed inferencing is important. So many times when we talk about edge, the number one use case, the value proposition is latency. But the reality is, while some AI applications need low latency, a lot don't. And the reality is, edge is more than about latency. It's about latency. It's about data privacy, which we saw was important. It's about reliability, resilience, right? The fact that if that connection goes down, you're still going to be able to run those AI workloads. It's about energy efficiency, which you might be able to do better at the edge. It's about cutting costs, whether that's transport costs, whether that's cloud costs, right? So as we think about this spectrum from the device edge through the telco operator edge all the way to the core, they're going to see a lot more exploration this year of what makes sense and how we should be thinking about AI and the opportunity that provides for operators, whether that's being in the middle by supporting the places where AI works or orchestration. Next slide. So this conversation of distributed inferencing kind of goes to a larger discussion around networks for AI and AI for networks. Now, I think a lot of you will know what this means. I think it was probably about a year or so ago, people started using this phrase here, and this idea that we know there's a lot of AI being used for networks, right? How are we leveraging AI to support network operations? But we also need to be thinking about the flip side. How do we build networks for AI? And you can go to the next slide, there's a little bit of a build here. We know the examples here, right? AI for networks. How do we use AI to make sure we have secure networks, to maintain the networks, to deliver energy efficiency network? But the networks for AI side of things hasn't gotten as much attention. But it's going to be critical because we recognize that those networks are going to be key for driving AI outcomes, for supporting AI. But what do we need in terms of investments? RAN upgrades, that edge build out, like I talked about, orchestration, that hasn't gotten as much focus. Expect to see it being a bigger focus this year. So we can go to the next slide here. And I'd just like to say thank you all very, very much. And we can go off to the next speaker.
Thanks, Peter. Thank you very much. And thanks for setting a great scene, the background scene for the following presentations. Okay. Yeah, great. So now that the background is set, you've seen the GSMA Intelligence's perspective of what to expect this year. I'd like to actually, this presentation too will be by Jerry J.L. Kim, who's the Executive Research Fellow in the CTO office in LGU Plus, and his presentation will be on AI agents in the physical AI era, which is very appropriate following Peter's presentation. So over to you, Jerry.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction, John. Let me talk about, I'm very happy to join this webinar, and I'm going to talk about AI agents in the physical AI era. And I'd like to introduce you our AI call agent, XCO, which is one of the LG U+'s initiative for the next few years. So as Peter introduced agentic AI, I'd like to talk a little bit about agents. We've seen the launch of ChatGPT in 2022, and since then, a lot of people are looking at the agent, not just far away, but something that'll be happening very soon.
Excuse me, sorry, Jerry. Looks like your slides aren't.
Can you see the slide?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great.
Yes, thank
you. And in 2023, there was very interesting paper called Interactive Simulacra of Human Behavior. This is a kind of a simulation of AI agents, which are based on the Gen AI, talking to each other and handling tasks with long-term and short-term memory. And the paper is one of the indications that everyone is working on this AI agent thing, and it's very much close to the actual implementation. And in 2024, we've seen agent devices coming up. So there was a kind of preview of device called Rabbit R1, which is something like a smartphone, but actually you don't have any other interface but camera and speaker and mic. And you just talk to the device for something, and the device will talk to outside companies to, for example, taxi hailing companies and things like that, and to perform what user wanted. Now in 2025, we are witnessing robot agents. I mean, NVIDIA's keynote showcased a lot of robot agents, which is in development phase, not the final one, but we are expecting this will be happening very soon. And everyone was kind of excited about this showcase. So what is this agent thing? I'd like to define AI agent as being something that will be communicating with human and performing tasks in the physical world. Actually, humans are like talking to AI agents with human interface. It used to be human-computer interaction, but now we are talking to agents with the help of AI, I mean, Gen AI. So now the interactions between human and agent will be human interactions. And then AI agent will go to the digital world, which is kind of a digital twin of the physical world. And then the digital twin will manipulate physical world. This is how we observe AI agent will perform what we ask them. And in the process, the authentication and also privacy and also security will be one of the top priorities. So we have to pay great attention to how we can make sure this is secure. And also in the digital world, we have to have a lot of different APIs or tools. That means the agent can perform what we ask. So for example, GSMA is one of the initiatives is Open Gateway APIs, which is a telco API becoming exposed to the outside world. So something like APIs are very one of the key capability of this agent era. So we have to be prepared for them. So in the next page, I'd like to deeply go into our AI agent, XCO. Let me start with what XCO means. As you can see, XC is kind of a graphical representation of human and human communication. So X is a kind of communication. So XC, you don't understand what that means. It's very simply graphical representation of connections between people. And O is a kind of a surprising AI service. So let's go deep into how we came up with this idea. So we asked people, we asked our users, Gen Z especially, because they will become major demographic portion of our users. So Gen Z actually was not using phone call as less phone call than average. But that does not mean they are not relying on phone call. They use phone call for intimate communication. So that means they use longer than average call duration, but with select people, friends, for example, or family. So that means this group of people are looking for new value in phone call. So we wanted to start with this phone call and make it more comfortable with Gen Z. So let me explain what we did. First of all, we wanted to have very secure call experience. That means protection from any fraud attempts. This is done by AI. And also, AI can answer the phone answer the call at the beginning, and users can decide whether they will take the call or not. And then if you have a call with someone, then real-time transcript will be shown on the screen. And then after the call, you can have suggestions or summaries or whatever you need to follow up after the call. For example, you can have suggestions like making reservations or having a calendar event or something like that. So this is an example of how you see what you see during the call. So during the call, you can talk to your friends, and at the same time, you can see the transcription. So it's like something like having a messenger experience, but you're on the call. So Gen Zs are now having a different call experience because they are more familiar with the messenger services and text-based communication. But that doesn't mean they are not using the phone call. So we wanted help Gen Zs to have a better, more rich call experience with them. And then after the second screen is, after the call, AI will suggest, for example, March 18th, Monday, meeting about design concept board, something like that. So you can add this to your calendar. And then this is a kind of a starting point, and we are expecting this experience to be extended to other areas like more suggestions or more action. So after this call, there will be a lot more APIs or something actionable things that will be performing users' requests. So this is about our evolution path. We just started with the call, and mobile agent will deal with communication from the beginning, and then they will extend to having reservation and other actions. But at the same time, we'd like to have home agent, which will be enrich users' media experience. So media agent will not just, they will recommend new media content based on users' flavor. And also things agent will handle those gadgets at home. So for example, a vacuum cleaner will be one of the examples. So how we can achieve this? So let me show you what we have in our background. So LG AI Research Center, which is one of the LG Group company, has LG foundational model, which is called XR1. Based on this foundational model, LG Plus have fine-tuned LLM, which is called XCGen. And LG Electronics is also working on a lot of home devices and appliances that are AI embedded. And this AI cannot be handled only by us. We have a lot of global partnership with big tech and as well as startups. So we are trying to build AI ecosystem to have sustainable business structure. So this is our strategic goal. We want to become a growth leading AX company. So we are putting our most of the resource on having AI transformation. So if you have any question or request, please contact me, and you can follow up with our agent, because we are having sales talk with other telcos, how we can have this solution delivered to their telco partners as well. Thank you very much. Back to you, John.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you very much. Great. That was a great presentation. Yes, I think I'd just like to allude to the point that you made, the importance of APIs in enabling the agent as a business model, as a service model. And of course, I'd like to mention to the audience over here that the GSMA's Open Gateway initiative very much addresses that. And so please, if you're looking into the possibility of building your business in terms of providing agents as a service, if you're a developer, please take keen interest in GSMA's Open Gateway initiative. That said, LGU Plus is very, very keen to actually partner with any other operators in the region or ecosystem players and developers based on their ICSI proposition. So please feel free to reach out to me or directly to Jerry if you'd like to actually collaborate with LGU Plus based on their ICSI LLM model. All right, great. Thank you once again. Now, the third presentation, we're going straight a bit over, but it's I think it's very, very interesting content. So next up, the third presentation will be by Christopher Price, who's the Director of Advanced Technology from Ericsson CTO Group. And this is a major global vendor, okay? And his presentation, it will be on the emergence of AI native networks in 2025. And I think it'll be a great perspective on how big, a network provider such as Ericsson sees the network evolution in 2025. So, Chris, over to you.
Thanks, John, and a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be speaking along with so many other esteemed engineers and experts. I'm hoping to share my material. That looks good. Okay. So today I wanted to talk about the emergence of AI native networks in 2025. And AI native becomes something that is more and more prevalent. And really what we mean when we talk about AI native, it is to ensure that our networks are able to interact with AI functions and AI agents in an effective way, and to ensure that our networks are able to carry AI relative data in a robust and resilient and trustworthy way. Really, it means throughout the stack that we are aware of the demands of AI, we are aware of the needs of AI on the network, and that we're building our networks in the right way and building our products in the right way to accommodate them. So I'd like to start with maybe the big picture, and the big picture is society and business industry have been digitizing, and has been a huge trend for the last few years. And now we start to see AI and automation playing a role there. And at least for me, I see this as a natural evolution of that digitization stage. As we digitize, more data becomes available. As we digitize, more twins are available. It creates the space and the opportunity for automation and artificial intelligence within our industry and within our society. Within this, then, we have the need for data, cloud, and mobility, connectivity, let's say. Now, data needs to be trusted, secure. There needs to be sovereign data where sovereign data is necessary. There needs to be global data when the global data is necessary. But there will be a variety of data, both intellectual, proprietary, and public. There needs to be cloud, and when we talk about cloud, we really talk compute now, centralized and distributed. And we heard before on device through to edge, defining the edge, and where is the cloud. Clouds will shift as AI needs shift, and so will where workloads are run. DeepSeek had a huge impact on where we expect to see AI workloads running. You can run DeepSeek independently on a Raspberry Pi, not even connected to the internet, and it works perfectly fine. That changes the game somewhat, and we expect to see more and more optimizations and simplifications coming through. And of course, mobility then, global, reliable, and secure access to AI services. Extremely important that we connect people to these AI services. We can't just keep doing AI services for the wealthy few. As we do AI in medicine, as we do AI in education, as we start to invest in AI as a societal value, we need to make that societal value available. So for us, the network, how we build the network and how we make sure that it works with AI really begins to structure how we need to look at AI as a technology and how to make our networks AI native. 5G we have seen and continue to see expanding in how and where it is used. And we continue to see digitization taking over the same areas, and we continue to see AI start to play more and more of a role across industries and across society. This trend we can expect to grow. 2025 will be a year where this becomes extremely apparent. We'll start to see new conversations around how we are going to be able to leverage AI in different industries and in different verticals. And then that will come back to how are we going to build our networks and structure our compute and what is required of the network in order to make this solution as good as it can be. For Ericsson, then, we are a network company, so we focus very much on the network, and we see the network evolving. We see the high-performing programmable network as the network of the future and of today. To some extent, we have a good programmable high-performing network today. AI is starting to shift our perception of what that means and what that needs to mean as we move into the AI native stage over the coming years. But essentially, a new business paradigm where we have performance-based business models, we have things like network slicing, we have things like APIs, and then new operational paradigms where we look for a more autonomous AI-driven network. We want to save time when it comes to getting things done, and we want agents to be able to help us act within the network in a more autonomous fashion. So how does this lay out for us? We still look at standards as an extremely important function for how we enable AI. We still see the TMF models for autonomy and intent-based networking as extremely important. As we have agents, for instance, the AI agents that people talk to are very important. The AI agents that other agents talk to are also extremely important. It's the coordination of functions within and across domains, which we talk about as autonomous functionality, which will be AI agent driven moving forwards, which allows these simplifications and the automation that we're looking for. We see AI as a huge enabler, an inevitable enabler for automation in the network and how it's going to fit into these types of environments. And of course, at the top level, coming back again to the APIs, extremely important that we are able to allow AI agents to interact with our networks. It's the ability to have a function request something of the network and have the network then be able to accommodate that is going to create new experiences and going to create new values for us as humans. This year as well, I believe we're going to hear a lot more about the AI RAN Alliance. Here we have the AI for the RAN, of course, the AI on the RAN, and we have the AI and RAN working groups, which are all important for us. I won't go into too much details, but not a lot of people are talking about AI and RAN, and maybe we should be, because here we need to think about, okay, how are we building compute? How does that support the RAN itself? How does it support AI workloads? How well do those two functions integrate and interact with each other? And what can we learn about how we can simplify network operations, how we can improve network throughput and network tailoring for different use cases, and how will this sort of play out as a technology as it evolves in the network over the coming years? I won't go into a lot of detail, but expect to hear outcomes from this activity during the year. There's been a big hype and a big investment. We've always looked at AI as something which needs a big chip. Maybe not anymore. Maybe now we start to look at AI as being something which we can deploy in different ways and in different manners without needing to invest in the biggest, most expensive chip around. One thing that springs to mind for me when I talk about AI agents is if we were to ask ChatGPT to please create an operating paradigm for a network and automate it end to end, we would probably need to spin up a couple more nuclear power plants to power what is required to make something like ChatGPT make trillions of decisions a second, which is what we do in networking. We need to optimize and simplify. And so finding the right place to invest and build these AI agents and to integrate them into what already exists is very important. So for Ericsson, just wrapping up very quickly then, we are on the path to AI native networks. We want to have the best networks for AI. We want to be able to differentiate connectivity based on AI needs. We want to have full autonomy and business agility. If the networks still require people to be touching buttons all the time when you want to get things done, we don't have autonomy and we don't have agility. So intent-based automated networks driven by AI agents, and of course, evolving into that 6G timeline as an AI native solution is where we see the world going. And of course, having great engineers, knowing how AI works and investing in the continued development of AI is extremely important for all of us. Thank you, John. I think that's all I have for today. I'll hand it back to you.
Great. Thank you very much for a great presentation, Chris, as usual. Great. All right. So looks like, AI agents, agents as a service, AI agents. I think these are the common words that are being mentioned in all the presentations. Now, that said, the next presentation will be quite interesting. And it'll be a presentation by a consulting company, Nikolai Derbystein, who's a partner at Kearney, and his presentation on what's been talked about, quite often in the last 12 to 16 months. It'll be on, will sovereign AI be a game changer? So, Nikolai, over to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
And you can see my presentation. Oh, good. 1 second.
Yes, yeah. You may want to maximize your slide.
Good. No, thank you very much. I think a very different topic. The question I wanted to explore is how important will sovereign AI be, and will it be a game changer? It's clear that the race for technological sovereignty is becoming the new driving force for global growth. And of course, also for a lot of geopolitical tension and technology bifurcation. It's clear also that AI will have a significant impact on economies. And based on our previous work, the estimate is likely to be 20-25% increase in GDP over a 10-year period. And as a result, many countries see it as crucial to have control over AI, both at infrastructure and at AI model level, to ensure it supports economic interest, addresses security concerns, or even aligns with specific values, be it social or political. Moreover, the question which is now being raised is of who should be the national champion who can help governments achieve AI sovereignty, and whether local telcos are best positioned for this. So before going into this question, I will provide a bit more context on various national AI strategies that are being pursued by countries. Recently, we did a benchmarking of countries to understand their overarching ambitions to advance AI and the policy and regulatory frameworks they're applying to achieve these ambitions. And I will contrast a bit to demonstrate how different the AI ambitions are between countries and what AI policies they pursue. And I think it's very important to understand and assess why and for whom and what level of AI sovereignty is important. Let's start with the ambitions. There are 3 archetypes that guide national AI strategies and policies. They are the leaders, countries that aim to achieve global leadership in AI through strong funding and robust and accessible infrastructure that drive innovations. And it's clear that the US and China are clearly in this category. Then we have the protectors. The protectors are countries that prioritize consumer protection and focus on trustworthy development and use of AI by regulating AI and promoting responsible AI practices. You have countries like Canada, France, Norway, Denmark in this category. And then you have the integrators, or we can even call them enablers, countries that enable the integration of AI in various priority industries of their national economies. Countries like Singapore, UK, UAE, Korea, Japan, Estonia. So countries have very different ambitions and objectives, and this drives a lot of policy focus and interventions. Of course, most countries understand the impact that AI can have on their economies, and most countries make big and conscious efforts to promote AI. However, not everyone needs to be and can be and wants to be the global AI leader and invest heavily in AI infrastructure. Now, what we also saw, the benchmark countries typically introduce policy and regulation in 3 main focus areas. There are sector-specific instruments that drive AI adoption and minimize risk across the economy. For example, Singapore has specific guidelines on AI in healthcare, or US has policy for fintech innovation. You have, secondly, the technology-specific policies, which are focused on new and emerging AI technology, trends like GenAI, LLMs, facial recognition, for example, the Canadian guardrails for GenAI. And of course, you have more agnostic intervention revolving around specific risk enablers, for example, the EU AI Act, the US CHIPS Act, or the Personal Data Protection Act for AI in France. And these three policy areas are key to keep in mind, as they also drive the emphasis on focus on areas of AI sovereignty and what level of AI sovereignty makes sense for a country. Now, interesting, if you then look at the target areas and players of these risk mitigation provision, they're primarily focused on the later stages of AI deployment and usage. The earlier stages of discovery and development have more enabling policies and regulations. In fact, most countries try to minimize any impediments on R&D and innovation, and even exempt players in the innovation and development stages from certain obligations. For example, knowledge-driven universities and research institutes are exempt from obligation, like in the EU AI Act or the China GenAI regulations. So you can immediately see the difference in how countries regulate AI and drive toward AI leadership. Now this is now setting the ground why national AI sovereignty is emerging as a top priority. And this is driven by the potential for economic growth, as well as the risks and threats to security and ethics, or even social and political values. And naturally, this goes back to the three different national AI ambitions that we have seen: the leader, the protectors, and the integrators. And it typically drives three focus areas. The first one is really the local AI infrastructure, where you focus on sovereign foundation models, local LLMs. You have next-gen data centers with advanced computing platforms. Of course, the whole world has been talking about GPUs for national AI development for the last 12 months. And there's a clear aim to reduce dependence on foreign AI technologies. Now, not every country can afford its own AI here, both in terms of capital as well as energy outflow. Interestingly, a Barclay report last year noted that only 15 countries have the fiscal budgets to accumulate sovereign AI. Now, with DeepSeek, this might change and actually might accelerate the strive for sovereign AI. Then, of course, you have data protection, data localization, inter and extraterritorial protection, and security measures. I think we have been seeing this for quite a while already. And then you have, of course, the responsible use of AI in the local context. So you have to align to local ethical standards. They're designed for specific local economic, social, environmental challenges. And naturally, while this it seems inherently good, it can also impact AI development. And we're seeing this in the fragmentation and limitations of the AI models and LLM models, particularly in countries like China, as they have to adhere to specific political values as well, DeepSeek notwithstanding. Of course, the push for AI sovereignty is most likely also to change the global tech landscape. I think currently they're talking a lot about the US-China technology bifurcation, but as more countries push into sovereign AI, or more broadly technology sovereignty, this could most likely create more fragmentation with the introduction of additional country-specific technology standards. Now, when driving for AI sovereignty, governments are also looking for trusted players to become sovereign AI providers. Essentially, you have three choices. Global tech companies and hyperscalers, you have the local tech mayors, if you have them in the country, and of course the telcos. And telcos in principle are well positioned to take on the role of sovereign AI providers. They're trusted, they're nationally focused, and often also provider of national infrastructure, be it data centers or cybersecurity. Now, other leading global tech companies or hyperscalers might not necessarily have specific national or local interests at heart, and are by definition cross-border and not single country focused. On the flip side, of course, telcos are not always the most successful ICT and enterprise providers. Not many telcos have succeeded as ICT providers, and you need to have strong enterprise and solution capabilities to be able to play the AI orchestrator role. Especially on enterprise AI platform, telcos with a few exceptions, like in Korea or Japan, have not yet built the right solutions, especially if you contrast with their hyperscalers. Now, ideal here would be a partnership with telcos and hyperscalers or tech companies. You ensure complementary capabilities are being brought together. And we saw that recently in the announcement in Korea between KT and Microsoft. But as we all know, partnerships are not easy to construct, and they need to go beyond MOUs and become real joint initiatives. And here's again where I think the government can play an orchestrator role. Now, final thoughts. I think there are probably three questions that need to be thought through when we talk about AI sovereignty. First of all, how important is AI sovereignty in light of a country's AI ambition. Driving for sovereignty can make sense, but it's difficult and can be costly, and not always needed, and could drive more tech fragmentation. Second is what policy interventions can help propel local AI development, and who should be the targeted at. I think we've seen from various countries, especially in protected indicator categories, that you can do a lot without going for full sovereignty. And lastly, who should be the government's local partners to help drive AI sovereignty? Telcos, tech companies, or others? Again, this depends on the national AI ambitions. There's no clear answer, and telcos are certainly well positioned here, but this all depends on the country and the telcos' capabilities. With that, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Nikolai. That was a great presentation. I think the topic of sovereign AI is of great interest across the board along the value chain. And I think you've helped to actually summarize and to summarize the key points and key issues related to what the sovereign AI could offer as an opportunity for the industry as a whole. Great. Once again, thank you very much, Nikolai. If you have any questions, please ask the questions in the Q&A session, please. All right, so let's move on to the panel discussion now. I know that we're fighting for time, but I'm trying to make it as effective, efficient, and of course, as interesting as possible. And so for this panel discussion, the panel session theme is very much based on what major AI-related topics and issues are anticipated to dominate discussions in 2025. And so it's based on this question. I've actually invited 5 executives from the AI value chain. And I actually have Sergey Shalyapin, who's a CTO of SingularityNet. I have Jaewon, who's the Senior Vice President and Head of Mobile Networks APAC and Nokia. I have Mani Mahadevan, who's an industry advisor for the telco industry team at Microsoft. And I have Arpit Kirali, who's a partner from the consulting firm Altman Solon. And of course, we have Thomas Sennhauser, who's a semiconductor industry expert to join this panel. So I have a wide range of different players from the industry to share their respective perspectives. So on this question, let's just hear some thoughts from these major players along the AI value chain. And I'd like to actually start off with the semiconductor industry. And of course, Thomas, the semiconductor sector, represented by Thomas Sennhauser, who was up until recently was a CTO and business lead APJ for the Intel Corporation, and is an industry expert with extensive experience in the semiconductor industry. What are your thoughts related to this question in relation to this session theme? From a semiconductor perspective, what do you think are the major AI related topics that you foresee to come up in 2025?
Yeah, thanks, John. I think a lot of things were said already into that, but I think for 2025, what I see is definitely enhancement of GPU, DPU, the silicon in general. You will see much better performance coming out of that, but you will also see a more distributed availability, as Christopher said, that you not need the latest and greatest and the biggest silicon, to run that. And what I also see is that there's a lot in the edge happening. The hardware is more powerful, more efficient. So this distribution, I think we will see definitely in this year happening on that. And then the other part is in the specialized AI processor. So you will see a lot of startups coming up with very specialized AI processor, or very specific designed for customized solution. And then the last point, I think, is really on the neurographic compute, which is, building the human brain architecture and leverage that for some of the models. On the technical side, I think what you see is a lot of advanced semiconductor material coming, new research on some of that. how you stack and the stacking and the packaging will be improved, and then also improving transistor design stuff like FinFET, to get a better power efficient out of that silicon.
Great. Great. Thanks for that, Thomas. Maybe you've actually answered a part of this question that I have for you. So just in addition to that, I mean, what specific advancements in AI chips and hardware do you think will define the AI performance this year? Could you just comment on that, please?
Somehow you break up. Can you
Okay,
repeat?
sorry. Yeah, so what advancements in AI chips and hardware do you believe will define AI performance in 2025?
Yeah, I think it's really the packaging. You will see that will improve dramatically. How you package the silicon will be a huge performance. And then, of course, the nanometers is getting smaller. So that's what you see in 2025 coming in. In 2027 and 8, there is a lot of other improvement, but I think that's a little bit too far away.
Right. And one last question. This is just coming in from a tangent. I mean, we've all heard about the DeepSeek, okay? And obviously, based on a lot of the media reports, they've managed to use less powerful chipsets to be able to run the analysis and analysis, and of course the computation required to enable AI, enabled by AI. So Thomas, do you have any comments on that? Do you always need a really high performance chipsets to really enable Gen AI? What's your personal opinion as an industry expert?
Again, the connection is somehow not so good, but I think the key thing is on that side, if you understood the question about what is happening with these new models coming in, what does it demand on the silicon side. I think what you will see is the silicon is the center of on the heart, I would call it, but software is much easier to adopt and adopt faster. So you will see we will see a huge improvements on the bigger models and getting them smaller. And the silicon side is also getting faster. We have a cadence, but there will be always a little bit behind the software improvements you will see. And I think you can also share some of that piece. So you will see this year a lot of software improvement. Last year you saw a lot of hardware improvement, I would say.
Right. Okay. So a lot more opportunities for developers as well. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think also with agents, etc., there's a lot of opportunity for new startups to come in and drive it. So I think technology is ready now. It's really around the business models and coming up with the good. Yes.
Great. Thanks, Thomas. Yes. Great. Thank you very much for your insight there. Next, it'd be great to actually hear a perspective from a major global network vendor, like Nokia. As I mentioned before, from Nokia, we have the head of mobile, Nokia APAC, Jay, who has extensive experience and expertise working with MNOs and the mobile ecosystem in the APAC since I was in the consulting industry a long time ago. So, Jay, could you please share your thoughts for this panel?
Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks. It's indeed, let me share my thoughts on the main topics for AI for this year, 2025, from mobile network vendor perspective.
Yes.
At the beginning of our session, already Peter talked about AI being one of the major drivers for making money and saving money, right? I thought that was a great way to put it. So really, in short, yeah, I totally agree. And I believe that those would be the main topics for us in 2025 on what AI can do for us. In fact, some of our customers actually believe that AI could be the game changer for 5G, and some might even say it's a savior for 5G. Of course, the question is how, right? So before I talk about making money and saving money, I think one topic that we also should think about and talk about very much is the impact of the network of AI services. And I think that's one of the key topics for discussion that we need to have in order to prepare for a mass take-up of the AI services, particularly these AI agents that were talked about. So from Nokia perspective, we've done some studies on the traffic and the usage patterns of these AI services. And what we do find is that there is quite a bit of difference between what AI services traffic would generate compared to the internet traffic that we've seen for the last decade or so. As we all know, a lot of the traffic is coming out of the video on the internet and that's streaming and also download. But this is all coming downlink. But AI is going to have a lot more uplink focus. So when we did the study, it turns out that some of the applications, for example, visual cleanup of AI images, AI visual cleanup of images, actually these drive a lot of uplink traffic because there's a burst traffic of cleaned up images going back and forth between the network, between the device to the network, and they can go up to 60 megabits per second. This is out of the measurements that we've done. But then what could really drive a lot more traffic, particularly on the uplink side, is the multimodal AI. And, we have these conversational AI, which is basically text and now starting with voice. But I believe that it's a matter of time before it goes to visual live AI agents. And some of you may have seen the Project Astra from Google, where the smart glass is connected by video to AI all the time. And if there's a mass take of that sort of device, you can imagine what impact that's going to have on the network, right? So I think, as we discuss making money and saving money, we also need to make sure that we look at the impact of the network on the network by the AI services. But just going back to the making money topic, we can do everything to prepare for the network, prepare the network for the services, but it's very true that capturing value has been a challenge for the operators on these types of services. So I think we want to work with our customers and operators to figure out what is the way to differentiate their services when they offer AI services. And one of the idea could be slicing to create differentiated access to AI so that they can potentially create a premium service. Another one might be, being able to access open up the network API so that developers can use the network assets to differentiate the services that they can offer to their subscribers or their customers as well. So that's on the making money, but just closing off with the saving money. Of course, the use of AI is going to be a key driver or key enabler to do the automation. And right now, because of intense focus on the AI, automation is kind of lumped into the AI topic, and there's big scrutiny by our operator customers. And of course, from Nokia perspective, we need to support them, drive the cost down utilizing AI technology. So in summary, the key topics that I believe will be AI related this year and potentially beyond as well is the impact of AI services onto the network and how to make sure that network is ready to take increase of AI related traffic. We want to make sure that there's a good focus, a strong focus on monetizing as part of the AI value chain for our operator customers. And then, of course, reducing the TCO, through the automation enabled by AI technology. Those would be the key topics I believe we'll be discussing throughout the year.
Right. I mean, in relation to your, the transition towards autonomous networks. Okay. I mean, I think it's you mentioned the key topics. I mean, what do you think would be maybe key obstacles that needs to be gotten over? Maybe 2 or 3 obstacles that you'd like to mention for the audience here. Potential obstacles.
Yeah. I think actually, if you want to kind of create the AI native network, which was talked about by our colleague from Ericsson, the architecture change will be very important as we go through the phase to kind of create an AI native architecture network. And actually, one of the topic is so important such that there is now a consortium set up, which was also touched on briefly, called AI RAN Consortium. And of course, Nokia is a big part of that, along with T-Mobile in the US, SoftBank, and NVIDIA. as well as Ericsson, of course, as the founding members. So from Nokia perspective, we're very active in the forum. And in fact, we're the chair of the AI and RAN working group. And actually, it's worth going into a little bit more detail on each of these topics. So let me spend a couple of minutes, if that's okay. So there are three groups that were touched on before: AI and RAN, there's AI on RAN, and there's AI for RAN. Now, AI on RAN is to figure out how to make AI services work better. So that was, what I was talking about with making sure that the network is ready to carry the AI traffic and differentiate the AI services on the network. So things like slicing, quality of service, uplink improvement, these would be types of topics that are discussed on AI on RAN. AI for RAN is how to use the AI technology to get the RAN to perform better, and also automate the process and the operation to reduce costs, and also improve the network resiliency and the network quality as well. So that's AI for RAN. Now, I guess most potentially disruptive topic here is the AI and RAN. And this is utilizing the GPUs in the base station as the main computing platform. Now, base station, as of today, is used to do a lot of number crunching so that it can do the signal processing back and forth, which is basically what the GPUs do, except they deal with pixels, and now they deal with data for AI inferencing and training. So if the base station can do the computing for numbers, then in theory, you can do the same with the GPUs for the base station and get the GPUs to provide 5G processing as well. So technically, it's possible. Commercially, it's being studied. But if you could do both, then there's a case that you could build a distributed AI data center that would do the 5G services as well as AI workload as a service as well. All of that is based on cloud architecture. So change of the network architecture is going to be really critical. And being able to use the cloud network architecture is also critical for automation of your operations as well. So I guess these AI on RAN, for RAN, as well as RAN is really interesting and critical discussion topics that we'll have to do throughout the year, and enable it to go to a fully autonomous network of the future.
Right. Thanks for a very, very detailed explanation and your perspective, sharing your perspectives, Jay. Great. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Yeah. All right. And I suppose having heard from a major global vendor, okay, Jay, once again, thank you. The role of big techs cannot be ignored in shaping the development of the AI industry. And our third panel, I have Matt Hardivan, who's the telco industry advisor working very closely with APAC MNOs from Microsoft. Manny, could you share what Microsoft sees as a major AI-related topics and issues to expect this year? So over to you, Manny.
Hey, John. Firstly, thank you so much for having Microsoft and me on this panel discussion. So from Microsoft perspective, one of the main areas that we are focused on is solving the monopolization issue. There's a fear factor. That's a major concern that only few tech companies has this luxury of innovating AI and kind of concentrating the power with AI. So at Microsoft, fundamentally, we acknowledge that issue. And, as we are leading the AI innovation, we wanted to address this proactively. And we are doing this in three areas, right? So one is, we are trying to create an open ecosystem and collaboration where governments, startups, enterprises, and any industries, right? I mean, like, for example, you can see Microsoft is actively, working with GSMA and a lot of MNOs, to make sure that, AI innovation reaches every industry. So that's one. And we're also having this, ecosystem development to make sure that it is open for everyone, right? So that's one. The second, as an example, is also our investment with OpenAI. that comes with the commitment that the AI capabilities are broadly available on our Azure platform for all the business sizes, and it's not restricted to few of them. The second area that we are also practically working on is building a responsible AI and governance frameworks. As AI diffusion, month on month or maybe day on day gets accelerated. We wanted to make sure that we help governments, we help a lot of organizations implement and establish a strong AI governance frameworks. So that's another area that we have been advocating AI policies. How do they balance innovation and the public interest by working closely with them? The third area that we are actively working on is also a commitment to the open source models and other competition as well. For example, if you look at the Azure AI Foundry, we have 100+ models, including some of our own competition as well. So we want to make sure that the competition stays healthy and it has an interoperability for greater goodness for the entire ecosystem. And it's not just, one company leads all, right? So that's something that we are very, very careful and very proud. For example, when DeepSeek got released, and Microsoft was the first one to get DeepSeek on Azure, right? So other than any other AI providers, we are the first one to have DeepSeek on our AI Foundry as well. So it's not just Microsoft first-party AI models or open AI models. We are collaborating with the likes of Hugging Face, Meta, DeepSeek, everyone to make sure that that's a diverse range for any innovators to come and innovate on the AI platforms. So these are things that we are actively working on at Microsoft side to solve the monopolization and the power concentration of AI.
Right. Thanks for your insight there. I do actually have one question for you, Manny, and this has got to do with obviously Microsoft is a big tech, and you have many enterprise customers and so forth. Okay, so moving on, I just want to ask you whether how you see a generative AI evolving, okay, and what the limitations, what its limitations are in servicing enterprise applications. Would you like to answer that, please?
Sure, John, great question. So from Gen AI perspective, we are seeing two phases. What we have been experiencing for the last 24 months is, we have been interacting with a lot of the models with text-based, and the multimodality had been accelerating in the last few months, right? I mean, Gen AI can now generate images, codes, even videos, right? And we are seeing this as a fundamental shift on how enterprises will leverage Gen AI to really, enhance productivity, automating some of the business workflows and business processes, and to kind of really enable new business models for them to drive top-line growth for them, right? So the next phase of, Gen AI, what we are going to see is, number one, it's more about, having greater contextual understanding, meaning, instead of providing generic responses, instead of providing general image generation, whatnot, it will have more decision making, more rational towards, providing those contextual questions and answers, or even to provide, algorithms to solve some of the most complex problems, right? The second is also about seamless integration with enterprise systems. And this is where the challenge is, right? So it's not to say that, there's a limitation to Gen AI. It's also about, a lot of enterprises, either it is banks, either it is even in telco context, there are a lot of legacy systems, right? And some of them are proprietary and it's not open enough. So there will be some challenges in terms of integrating Gen AI with the systems to really fully see the potential of Gen AI, what it can do. But that is one of the areas that in coming months we are going to see agentic AI play a critical role on that one, right? So as we see opportunities for agentic AI to help on business workflows and to solve, I would say, decentralize the legacy systems and solve those challenges. But there are still questions around how data privacy and security can be solved using Gen AI. how the compute and cost efficiency can be addressed, the rise of Gen AI, and the regulatory compliance as well, right? I mean, these are some of the work to do. We don't have a complete answer, but these are all work in progress. So these are some of the challenges I foresee from Gen AI, not as limitation, but I guess in few months to next chapter of where Gen AI is going, we'll have those things solved.
Great. Thank you very much for that answer and for your insight, Manny. We just we are actually struggling for some time, so I'll jump onto the next panelist. Now, now following on, now artificial general intelligence is mentioned and discussed frequently in the AI industry, and I've invited Sergey Shalapin, who's a CTO of SingularityNet, which is an innovative and very much recognized player and developer in the AI ecosystem. Now, Sergey, welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you to join our panel discussion. Now, could you please share SingularityNet's perspectives related to this panel discussion theme, and what issues and topics to watch out for from your perspective, okay, in 2025? Sergey.
Yes, thank you for the invitation. That's a great honor to be here. Really interesting discussion, and the more I listen, the more I'm having an impression that AGI is in fact kind of elephant in the room, because all the trends we are discussing right now is more or less about incremental growth of Gen AI pipelines and generative AI implementations, and kind of quasi shock which DeepSeek have given to industry, also maybe a bit overestimated. We're still dealing with incremental process, and some things might be visible much better from AGI perspective. In fact, AGI is not here. Let's be clear. If you go deeper to AGI topic, you will quite quickly come to a conclusion that it cannot be that easy incrementally developed on top of Gen AI. So that's kind of different paradigm. From AGI perspective, all the generative AI implementations, and personally, I dealt with generative AI for many years, so I'm far from criticism. This is a really powerful framework and combination of technology, which just warming up the industry for real AI, which is AGI, and which is about cognitive architectures, in fact, and about absolutely different technological stack, in fact, for which this part, I mean, generative AI models, even not memory models, the full-fledged technology, but kind of reflex models, really powerful, and which can be reused and can be incrementally grown up and can definitely process all the human knowledge which we leave as our legacy in form of text and pictures which we film and collect in terms of digital data. So that all can be processed properly by these reflex models, reused, and we can build beautiful things on top of them. So we can build beautiful agents and downstream task solvers. And the technology we just introduced in 2024, and which is the major trend in 2025, which is reinforcement learning of reasoning and planning in generative AI, is quite friendly for downstream task solving. So let's say in 2023, 2024, we just have been impressed by capabilities of Gen AI to create and to generate some text, documents, concepts, and just behave like humans. Downstream task solving was just not efficient enough. But in 2025, we will definitely can make it work. And also we see much more competition between parties. So not just only OpenAI and Claude and Anthropic and like major players coming from Google, DeepMind and Microsoft initially, but now we have Elon Musk in the game, we have Chinese labs in the game, we have many players in the game. In fact, some of them are under the curtain and having some nice technologies to introduce in 2025 and to disrupt in this area. So we are dealing with some excitement in this technology area, and the era of training the models with multiple objectives and reinforcement learning, building these beautiful self-placed setups on top of strong models is really cool thing. So we can develop a lot of things there, and definitely like the major trend of 2025, which is agentic frameworks, will be supplied and backended by this technology. But at the same time, the very industry moves towards much more powerful implementations to neural symbolic AI frameworks, to cognitive architectures, which can combine multiple computing paradigms and multiple high-level class algorithms, and leveraging knowledge bases and knowledge graphs, retrieval and knowledge graphs, achieving real knowledge distillation and self-programming capabilities. It's supported by the industry. I remember what Thomas just said. In fact, we have the generation of chips which are native for neural symbolic architectures. We just don't have the workload itself. So the industry moves with its own inertia, and we cannot properly utilize Blackwells. We cannot properly utilize AMD APUs because we just don't have proper neural symbolic workloads. So industry is waiting for it. But maybe we will have it in 2025, end of 2025, early 2026. So many processes are happening like under the curtain. Maybe I will try to highlight a couple of them quickly. So what we're dealing with the information to knowledge transformation. And this is maybe a bit of underestimated. So even this reasoning distilling pipelines we have on top of generative AI, which introduced planning. And that was the most impressive in the last generation of OpenAI models and DeepSeek R1, by the way. Just advanced planning. We're still doing it on the information layer. And when we deal with information layer, we will fall to deep inference play. So even if we have like huge models and we run them through all of the downstream task solving scenarios, and we collect all the data, put it in a huge database. Let's imagine this, right? And we have really native and nice retrieval on top of this database. That's still information level. If we need to deal with knowledge, we need to distill to really compact logical representation. In fact, we need to distill semantics to symbolism, and that's the border that's the border of AGI realm, in fact. And this realm lives in future, but we're just knocking at the door. What it might be.
Thank you.
Yes, that brings seamless generalization in perspective, and that brings really powerful distillation of everything. So decentralized things and interconnected knowledge, which we could operate with much more efficient AGI class algorithms further on.
Great. Thank you, Sergey. That's a great explanation. Sorry, I have to just move on to the next panelist. It was a great explanation because we are fighting for time. And once again, spasiba, Sergey. And I'd like to actually, lastly, just taking all these perspectives from the key players along the value chain into account, I've invited Arpit Kirali, who's a partner at Altman and Solon, to share his perspectives and outlook related to AI for 2025, and which topics and issues to anticipate based on his experience of working with MNOs and the AI ecosystem. So Arpit, apologies for the limited time, but over to you.
No, it's fine, John. Since it's you and GSMA, so due to all respect I have for you and your body, it's all good. I have postponed my other commitment, other appointment. Let me start with this. first and foremost, I mean, our firm Altman Stalin is the world's leading, biggest TMT specialized consulting firm. We're specializing on strategy and AI, of course, working across various regions, US, EMEA, last but obviously not least, the most important market is APAC, and we work with most of the leading MNOs. And there's a reason for I'm saying all this. But also investors. We're covering the entire spectrum. So we get a lot of opportunity to discuss and understand what is driving investment, but also what is driving the adoption and potential opportunities outlook for AIs. Now, if I'm also looking back to what my distinguished colleagues in this panel spoke about, I resonate to a lot of those points from the work we do with particular MNOs. But also fiberglass towercos, and there's 4 points, or three to 4 points I see being very, very common, which I see shaping and taking place and being topics that are being discussed amongst MNOs in this region. Those are, one, the democratization that Thomas, Jay, but also Mani mentioned. That's a very, very hot topic. A lot of emphasis on how do you drive the democratization across the ecosystem, but specifically on the tech stack for a MNO. But with that, also how to democratize within, which then relates to the citizens, the employees, the staff within MNO, which hasn't been covered much in this session. The second one is making money, which Peter also emphasized on. We see that shift, and we expect that shift to further emphasize in 2025 and beyond, going from experimentation and looking at AI and Gen AI as a way of improving bottom line through cost savings, transform that to actually accelerate growth. So in terms of efficiencies, use cases have a new lens on it. So it's not primary cost saving, is to drive efficiencies to accelerate growth and improve top line and be more profitable through top line improvement. The second is a start of asking more about how do we actually make money, opposed to how do we save money. So how do we go from where we have today? So new services, but also improve services, but specifically CX. We see CX bouncing back as the key topic for MNOs, as part of going back to the core and less, telco to techco. I mean, that pretty much is gone. So it's more about focusing on the core assets and leverage AI to drive CX to support top line improvement, John. The third is what Mani spoke about in terms of open ecosystem and partnership, but not just partnership within the TMT sector per se, partnership across other sectors. To cross-collaborate across sectors is more important today than it has been prior. So what
You're talking about other verticals, right? Other verticals.
Not just other sectors, but also other verticals. But it's also like how do you cross-collaborate with FMCG? What can you learn from what FMCG has done on AI, financial institutions, and so forth. So it's actually for real look beyond the telco sector and not solely verticals that telco's been comfortable looking into in the past, but they need to step out from that comfort zone. Otherwise, they're gonna lag, and they're gonna lag for real, considering the rapid involvement, the rapid development of this particular tech that we have seen, and the exponential increase of that velocity moving forward. Last is what we're calling going from a knowledge economy to an action economy. So knowledge economy refers to a lot of what Peter, but also what Christopher spoke about in terms of use case experimentation, actually taking that knowledge now and getting stuff done, getting things done in simple words. So that's where we're also working a lot with clients and questions that we get. So how do we go from knowing and building knowledge about AI, classic AI, Gen AI, a lot of emphasis in this panel or in this meeting, this session being on agentic AI. So how do we take that knowledge now and transform that into an action economy, which then relates to the previous points I mentioned. Yeah. So I will pause there and pass back to you, John. You're muted, John.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ben. Great. Thanks for your a detailed explanation of your thoughts. Now, before we finish off, I'd like to ask you one question. How do you expect MNOs will shift their focus on AI outcomes this year? And have you seen the shift happening already?
Yeah, we've seen a shift, and obviously we're part of driving that shift as well, specifically in this region. There's a few changes. One, going back to making money topic, which obviously a topic that we like.
Monetization. Yeah,
it's key. There's been a
monetization.
lot of talk about monetization over the past decade and a half, leveraging various type of connectivity and technology hasn't really taken off, right? We expect that to change with AI. So that's something that telcos or MNOs specifically are discussing more. So stepping into monetization as our next frontier. So we see that, we expect that to accelerate throughout 2025, but also obviously beyond 25. We also see with that, as I said, I want to emphasize a bit more on CX, right? Because CX is coming back at a very high magnitude, and it feels like there's a flashback to like a decade ago when CX was pretty much new for MNOs. It's getting back to, but it's more on how do you drive that next frontier of CX and with that monetization by leveraging on agentic AI. So that's one, John. The second is which also has been touched more. So I feel privileged to bring this topic up a bit on my own. Risk concerns. There are obviously still a huge amount of risk concerns that remains and required to be addressable. Security is one of them. I think Christopher and Peter spoke a bit about security and Jay as well. But it's obviously it's of bigger and more harder topic today than it was yesterday and a few years ago. And what's interesting is what we see in terms of a shift, John, to leveraging AI is a integration of security into AI. So we see a lot of distinct AI officer or head of AI being instead into MNOs, specifically in developing markets, that we also see leapfrogging, right, in terms of how you drive and how they transform the op model compared to the MNOs in developed markets, advanced markets. So that will bring me to the third, which is execution matters. Not much is touched about execution and velocity, and with that capabilities. Now, everything that has been said is good. I think it's amazing, and it's amazing to see how particularly players like Microsoft and Nokia and Ericsson are emphasizing and stimulating open collaboration and democratization of the tech ecosystem. But that said, it's also about capabilities and execution abilities within MNOs. So now more than before, we see a very, very aggressive focus on investing into whether it's uplifting, capability enablement, or reskilling, new skilling. But MNOs are taking control back opposed to what they have done for the past 2 decades. And it's also, for me, it's amazing to see, because something that is required in order to really start making money in a sustainable way. So that's number 3. 4, what we're also being asked a lot is how do we sustain our relevance in the AI ecosystem, and obviously with that we see a shift in participation. We see that AI is becoming more of a participation economy as well, a participation game compared to previous technologies. That's something that is new as well. I have a last one because I know that we're over time. It's what I said about op model and organization. So we see that in order to seize this and how MNOs are shifting to become AI enabled, is the change in organizations and op models. So we see that chief AI officer being instated, or a combination of chief AI officer and security officer, or a combination of strategy and AI officer, to ensure that AI goes from what emerging tech traditionally been instated within an IT, slash deep pocket or box tech position function, to being a commercial with some strategy acumen in it as well, driven, focused position, John. So that's also what we see as a new initiative to make sure that shift can happen in a successful way. So I will pause there.
Great.
Also, obviously, with respect to the time, and pass it back to you.
Great. Thanks for your insight, Arpad. Yes, that actually concludes our first webinar for DAXF Digital Transformation Acceleration Forum for this year. And that said, I will be actually summarizing the key points that have been mentioned. And we'll be using these the presentations and the content that's been shared and the insights that have been shared with the AI initiative, GSMA AI initiative team, and take those key points into account for our future activities throughout this year. But once again, thank you very much for your participation to all the speakers and the presenters. And the panel participants and all the attendees. And if any of you are actually attending Mobile World Congress Barcelona, please do not hesitate to reach out, because in Barcelona, we also have a lot of many activities, seminars and workshops in relation to AI. And it'd be great to actually have you all participate in them if you are attending MWC in Barcelona. Lastly, you saw Peter Jared's presentations today from GSMA Intelligence. If you'd like to actually connect with GSMA Intelligence and work with them in terms of doing maybe an analysis or some research in relation to the AI sector, please don't hesitate to reach out. And lastly, before we finish off, I will be sending out an activity plan for DAXF for the rest of the year. So please have a look through that. Any questions, let us know. And we'll look forward to having you involved in all our DAXF activities in relation to AI and other advanced technologies going forward. Once again, thank you very much for your participation, and I look forward to seeing you in the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and everyone else. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.